Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shong. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Unlike in the West, where soaring inflation has brewed into a political storm, the United States is fighting the highest inflation in 4 decades. But China's food prices increased just over 2% from a year ago. China's middle class is more concerned with ramifications of falling wages and a diminished economic outlook. Many Chinese people are responding with spending less. 400 million Chinese people are in the middle class bracket. For them, income reductions have become increasingly commonplace amid the nation's strict zero-COVID policy and difficult economic conditions. Given the significant global commodity inflation, it will affect China's oil, gas, and grain price in the second half of the year. In the meantime, China's housing prices, rents, and incomes are generally stagnant. There are more and more news of people being laid off. But for many ordinary Chinese people, they still believe in the ability of the Chinese government to stabilize basic prices. They believe the high inflation rates in the West will certainly not happen in China. Last year, China's Consumer Price Index (CPI) grew by 0.9% overall. The latest CPI has increased, but it is still within a manageable range, about 3%. China's Producers' Price Index was expected to continue to ease to 6.3% in May, down from 8% in April. In April, fresh vegetable price rose by 24% and the fresh fruit prices rose more than 14%. But the CPI increases was moderated as the price of pork fell by 33% year on year. US and Europe risk stagflation. China more than ever need to boost domestic consumption. But when China's middle class plan to spend less, it is becoming a major economic risk in China. According to a recent public survey about income on Weibo that attracted 3,359 respondents, more than 56% said their income had shrunk during the pandemic, while close to 25% said their incomes were frozen. While pork and rent prices are expected to be largely little changed, much of China's urban middle class has lost its so-called cherry freedom as consumers cut discretionary spending. Cherry freedom was once a buzzword among Chinese middle class, referencing one's ability to purchase pricey products without a second thought, including imported treats such as the Chilean cherries. Meanwhile, despite decline in consumption and investments, mortgage payments still must be made, and household debt is rising. For the past decade, everyone imagined and took for granted that life would be better, buying a home to cushion inflation and getting good returns on investments. But no one thinks that way anymore, said Lin Xiaoxia, a Shanghai middle-class resident. Crick China is one of China's main real estate data application service providers. According to its report, the average monthly residential rent in 55 cities across the country was 33 yuan per square meter in the first quarter of 2022, down by 0.75% from the last quarter of 2021. And compared with 2021 as a whole, the rent increase rate has significantly decreased. Residential rents in Shenzhen, China's most dynamic tech city, were also on a downward trend in 2021, fallen by about 11% compared with 2019, according to Centerline Properties data. The reason China has been able to hold the food price down is primarily because Beijing is stockpiling food at historically high levels, and now China has more than half of the world's maize and other grains. At the end of last year, Nikkei Asia reported that China has managed to stockpile more than half of the world's maize and other grains, leading to steep price increases across the planet and dropping more countries into famine. On January 5th this year, Bloomberg reported that food prices have hit 10-year highs, causing worldwide concern. The Bloomberg article said, supply chain bottleneck, labor shortages, bad weather, and a surge in consumer demand are among the factors responsible for the spike. So too is a less known phenomenon. China is hoarding key commodities. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, China will hold 69% of the world's corn reserves, 60% of its rice, and 51% of its wheat by mid-2022. So, why is China stockpiling food? China has operated granaries for thousands of years. In imperial times, they served as a source of tax revenue and a means of managing bad harvests, natural disasters, and war. Their importance grew as China's population soared, yet the state's ability to manage them faltered. Mao Zedong and China's Communist Party staked much of their credibility on solving hunger. But mid-century famines took the lives of tens of millions. President Xi Jinping once remarked that many members of his generation still recall hunger. Those memories have informed Xi's policies since the start of his regime. In 2013, just weeks after taking office, Xi endorsed a nationwide campaign to discourage people from wasting food. In 2020, the Clean Plate campaign was resurrected as he called on Chinese to maintain a sense of crisis about food security. That crisis isn't just about having enough to eat, it's about having enough food produced domestically to minimize reliance on anyone else. At the end of last year, Xi told a high-level Communist Party meeting that the food of the Chinese people must be made by and remain in the hands of the Chinese people. But that won't be easy. China's inventory of arable land has been in decline for decades, nibbled away by urban development and soil contamination, and its farms are far less productive than counterparts in other countries. So, China is stockpiling. At home, the government is offering farmers a minimum price for their crops. In March 2021, it raised the minimum price for wheat for the first time since 2014. Meanwhile, traders have taken advantage of a strong yuan to snap up grains at a feverish pace. China's wheat imports surged 50% between January and July 2021. In November, agriculture officials announced that China had enough wheat stockpiled to last 18 months. Other countries have been building up food reserves too, especially as COVID-related disruptions persist. In June last year, the UN's food agency warned that some low-income countries were likely to see food import costs jump as much as 20% for the year. Though the report didn't single out any country for responsibility. As far as I know, China's communist regime has no intention of unwinding its stockpiles for the benefit of others. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.